CaitlinClark, did you turn down $15 million? Oh, that's a boss move. Oh, that's a crazy boss move. That's a flex.
The WNBA thought a $50 million paycheck could erase everything. The biggest contract they've ever dangled in front of a player. And CaitlinClark said no. She's not cashing in on chaos, politics, or empty promises. She knows her worth, and she won't be bored. The league paraded this historic deal like money alone could silence criticism, fix years of incompetence, or keep her chained to a system that hasn't even protected her on the court. But Caitlin didn't blink. She knows the truth. A flashy number doesn't erase the pain. Fans who pack arenas, buy her jerseys, and tune in every night have also watched her take hit after hit with zero accountability from refs or league leaders. And now, after all that, the commissioner thinks waiving $50 million makes everything fine? Not a chance. Look at what she's already endured in just 2 seasons. No breathing room, no protection, only constant drama. One cheap shot after another, Bria's included, written off like it was nothing. Sophie Cunningham charging at her like a linebacker, brushed off. Lexi Hull crashing into her, nearly sending her to the sidelines. Just part of the game. Over and over, Caitlin is a one left bruise on the hardwood while the refs swallow their whistles and the commentators act like it's no big deal. That's not basketball. That's a recipe for disaster, a setup for injuries waiting to happen.
Walk there to the stanchion.
And it wasn't just the cheap shots on the court. The politics piled on. 2. Remember Britney's constant shade? The whispers, the digs, the backhanded comments. Then came the racial undertones, stirred up the moment Caitlin became the face of the league. Suddenly, her success wasn't just about basketball. It was twisted into something uglier.
Fouled out at 6. There was a ticky-tack fouls, and again, CaitlinClark.
Instead of celebrating how Caitlin single-handedly boosted ratings, ticket sales, and the league's relevance, certain players and media voices dragged a race card into the mix, fueling division instead of unity. Caitlin never begged for the spotlight. Her talent and impact demanded it. But instead of backing her, parts of the league turned hostile. Add to that a league already drowning in credibility issues, refs who can't call games consistently, star players throwing elbows, grabbing jerseys, even outright assaults, and barely a suspension or fine in sight. Fans see it. Broadcasters see it. And Caitlin definitely sees it. So when the commissioner suddenly throws a $50 million contract on her desk, of course her reaction isn't gratitude, it's suspicion. Where was this energy when she was getting hacked to pieces every game? The WNBA thought money would buy her silence. They underestimated her. Caitlin doesn't need their hush money. With Nike, Gatorade, Panini, Wilson, and now Stanley backing her, she earns more off the court than most of the league combined. For others, $50 million is life-changing. For Caitlin, it's leverage. Proof the league knows it can't survive without her. And let's not ignore how this looks to veterans who've been grinding for over a decade without seeing even half that payday. Caitlin shows up, doubles the ratings, sells out arenas, and suddenly gets offered $50 million. The resentment behind the scenes? You can feel it. That's why the league wanted this deal done fast, to keep her just happy enough to ignore the tension. But Caitlin isn't naive. She knows the same players who bash her spotlight would cry unfair the second she signed. So she walked away. And in doing so, she exposed it all. The commissioner's desperation, the hypocrisy of players who profit from her draw but attack her anyway, the refereeing failures that allow assaults to slide simply because the target is CaitlinClark. Most of all, she exposed just how fragile the WNBA's foundation really is. Now, let's break it down. Remember the Sophie incident?
Foul trouble with how physical she is.
Son, turn it over for a 5th time.
That wasn't just a hard foul. That was pure frustration boiling over into outright aggression. And how did the league react? With a shrug. No suspension. No meaningful fine. Nothing. Fans caught it immediately. Social media flooded with clips of Caitlin getting tossed around like a rag doll while refs just jogged away. That's not basketball. That's negligence. And yet the league expects her to trust them with a long-term deal? Please. Then came the Lexi Hull collision, another reckless hit that nearly had Caitlin sidelined all over again.
It's not doing great.
Sure, basketball is physical. Contact is part of the game. But when the hits keep piling up against one player, and that player just happens to be the league's biggest star, people start asking questions. Is this incompetence, bias, or something uglier? Caitlin doesn't have to spell it out. The fans are already connecting the dots. And here's the kicker. She doesn't even need to threaten to leave. The May thought sends the league into panic mode. Picture the fever without her. Picture WNBA broadcast without her logo, her deep threes, her sold-out jerseys, her headlines. Attendance tanks, ratings collapse, merch gathers dust, sponsors pull out. That $50 million offer wasn't generosity, it was desperation. It was insurance against the league crumbling under its own mismanagement. But Caitlin's too smart for that. Signing would tie her name to their failures, make her complicit in a system that has disrespected and endangered her since day one. She doesn't need the WNBA. The WNBA needs her. And by rejecting their deal, she made that crystal clear.
I understand. You got Nike deal. You got freaking PGA golf tour, live golf tour. You got hockey sponsor. I know you got a lot going on. Turn down 15 M's.
The second the news broke that CaitlinClark turned down $50 million, the internet exploded. Some fans called her insane, others called her fearless, but nobody stayed quiet. X lit up with highlights, memes, and takes from every angle. One side argued she should have secured the bag. The other side saw it as the boldest move in modern sports. Proof she can't be bought, not even by her own league. And honestly, can you blame her? CaitlinClark isn't moving like a desperate rookie clinging to a paycheck. She's already made millions off the court. Nike, Gatorade, Wilson, Panini, Stanley. She's on billboards, commercials, magazine covers. She sells sneakers and cups faster than stores can restock them. That's power. That's leverage. And that's exactly why this rejection stings the league so badly. It proved she's bigger than their biggest offer. But while fans debated, you could feel the panic inside the WNBA. This wasn't about money. This was about control. The commissioner thought a shiny contract would lock Caitlin in, tie her name to the league's chaos, and silence the criticism. Instead, she reminded them that control doesn't come from contracts. It comes from credibility. And the WNBA has none. This is the same league that let Bria's assault slide, shrugged off Sophie Cunningham's body check, and called Lexi Hull's collision just part of the game. Other players get protection, sympathy, and media spin. Caitlin, she gets told to toughen up. Fans see the double standard. So does she. Add in the racial tension stirred up by Britney's remarks, and the whole environment reeks of toxicity. Now imagine this. The league that stood silent while Clark was targeted, suddenly branding her as a future with a contract meant to own her image forever. That's not an opportunity. That's a trap, and Caitlin knew it. By saying no, she kept her independence. She sent a message that money doesn't erase mistreatment, bias, or incompetence. And let's be real, the player reaction was always going to be ugly. Veterans who spent 10 years grinding for scraps suddenly saw Caitlin offered $50 million after 2 seasons. Jealousy, resentment, locker room whispers, it was already boiling. If she had signed, it would have detonated. Ironically, rejecting the deal may have saved the league from its own civil war. Still, the resentment lingers, simmering under every elbow thrown her way. Meanwhile, fans are paying attention like never before. People who never cared about women's basketball are suddenly tuned in, not just to watch her play, but to see why she walked away. And that's the WNBA's nightmare. For the first time, they can't hide the dysfunction. Their brightest star just exposed them on the biggest stage. Media outlets rushed in, spinning the story both ways. Some called her ungrateful, others heroic. But both missed the point. This wasn't about greed or defiance. It was about power. For decades, WNBA players begged for fair pay, better travel, and real protection. Now, for the first time, the league needs a player more than she needs them. And she refused to play along. Think about what rejecting $50 million really means. It means Caitlin values freedom, image, and principle over a paycheck. It means she doesn't believe this league can change fast enough to deserve her loyalty. That's not arrogance. That's strategy. Her prime years are too valuable to waste on broken promises. So now the big question, what's next? Does she go overseas like Taurasi once did, chasing huge contracts in Europe or Asia? Does she lean fully into endorsements, becoming a global ambassador without a league schedule? Or does she wait out the WNBA, forcing them to rebuild credibility before she even considers signing? Whatever the path, the uncertainty terrifies the commissioner's office. Because without CaitlinClark, the WNBA loses momentum. Attendance drops. Sponsors hesitate. Networks stop bidding big on TV rights. The Clark effect has been the single greatest growth engine in league history, and her rejection put it all at risk. That $50 million wasn't a reward. It was a plea, and she said no. And here's a symbolism that cuts the deepest. CaitlinClark didn't just reject a contract. She rejected a system that let her get assaulted without consequence, a system that allowed racism and jealousy to overshadow her performance, a system that leaned on her star power while leaving her unprotected. She walked away from all of it. Now the league is left scrambling. Why did they think money could erase mistreatment? Why did they assume Caitlin would sell out her principles? Why do they still ignore the assaults and the bias that everyone else can see? Fans aren't dumb. They've seen the clips, read the headlines, and they're questioning whether the league can even survive without her. Meanwhile, CaitlinClark is thriving. Endorsements rolling in. Social media buzzing. Fans more loyal than ever. By toning down $50 million, she didn't just elevate her career, she elevated her legacy. She's not just a face of the WNBA anymore. She's a face of resistance to everything wrong with it. Proof that athletes don't have to accept disrespect just to get paid. The WNBA thought they had CaitlinClark cornered. Instead, she flipped the board, walked away, and left them sweating. Now the question isn't how much they'll pay her. The question is whether the league will change or collapse without her.